Hello, my name is Amanda Green, and I'm going to be talking to you today a bit about anxiety in students and some books and authors that would help you support those students. So this is Julia Cook. She wrote Wilma Jean the Worry Machine, which is all about a girl named Wilma Jean who worries about everything from standing up and doing a math problem to going to lunch, whether she's going to get certain food or not, to being picked last for things, to her hair looking strange, etc. And she learned that once she talks to her teacher about her worries, there's plenty of things that that they can control, and the teacher puts supports in for her. And then she also talks about, we can't control the weather, but this is what we can do when poor weather happens and what you can do with your worries. So Julia Cook writes many social emotional books, and they put children's feelings into words and gives them strategies to cope with these situations, which is often hard for students to be able to explain exactly what they're feeling. And her books also help both children and parents. In particular, this book, Wilma Jean the Worry Machine, I might use it as a read aloud during morning meeting because it could hit a bunch of students, and even students that don't necessarily have anxiety but really get worried if they have, say, a reading disability, reading out loud, or they're behind in math. Maybe they worry too about being called to solve a math problem, and it helps them learn what to do in those situations that you can't really control and you're worried about, or that you can control. So Julia Cook also writes, "Sorry, I forgot to ask. Thanks for the feedback. My mouth is a volcano. Teamwork isn't my thing and I don't like to share, but it's not my fault." So this is Kevin Hanks. He writes Womberly Worried, and he is a writer and illustrator. He won the Caldecott Medal for Kitten's First Full Moon, and he's widely known as the author of Chrysanthemum. And his writing style is that he writes fantasy with talking animals that have lives that seem real. So through using animals, it's kind of fun, but they're relatable. So it's not a direct way of, targeting students. It's using animals to make it fun, but also they can see their own lives through it. So with Womberly Worried, I would probably also use this as a read aloud. It's a cute story that would hit a bunch of students, and it's very similar to Wilma Jean the Worry Machine, and there could be some fun activities that could supplement it, such as, if you were in a situation like Womberly, what would you do? He writes Chrysanthemum, Julius the Baby of the World, Owen, and Chester's Way, which all, again, personifies these mice and animals, and they talk about real life hardships and struggles and how you can, handle them. So this one is I Feel Worried, Tips for Kids on Overcoming Anxiety, and it's by Nadine Briggs. For this book in particular, I would probably give it to a child who has anxiety. It isn't really a book that could also help children who don't have anxiety, because the others are helpful to everyone, because even if you don't have anxiety, then you can kind of understand the thoughts and brain process of, your friends and classmates that you can't really understand. Why are they so worried? And it helps you as well. Where this one's all about what to do if you have anxiety, and it's hard to see it from the other side. But Nadine writes various books focusing on social skills. She also writes books on how to deal with various emotions. So she's a social educator and has an expertise and certifications in bullying prevention. So like I said, this book I wouldn't really teach whole class. I might give it to a student with anxiety, or I might get a few copies and do some group work with those particular students. She also writes How to Make and Keep Friends, I Feel Mad, and I Need to Win. So as you can see, they all are about tips to overcoming these challenges. They're all social or emotional related. This is Trevor Romaine. He writes Stress Can Really Get on Your Nerves. He's an author and illustrator and motivational speaker. He writes about bullies, cliques, and other self-help books. And he writes in a funny and relatable way. So he uses humor to engage students. So this is a book I might use as a read aloud, or maybe even guided reading, because it's not so much tips and tricks. There are some tips within it, but it talks about, stress and getting on your nerves and worrying about that stress. And I think to some degree, all children have some level of stress and could benefit from it. He also writes The Great Moving Adventure, Cliques, Phonies, and Other Baloney, Taking the Duh Out of Divorce, Bullies Are a Pain in the Brain. This is Carrie Dunn-Baron, and she writes When My Worries Get Too Big, a relaxation book for children who live with anxiety. So this book is all about, tips and tricks again. This focuses on how to relax and calm down your body. So the key word in this situation is relax. So it's for the students with anxiety that get so hyped up and so worried that they cannot relax their body, they cannot calm down. And this has teaching activities. So I might give this book to students for their own independent reading who struggle with anxiety, or send it home. But I think a great idea is that since it has teaching activities, I could just in a morning meeting read the book and then doing one of the teaching activities that go with it. And some of the teaching activities require collaboration to solve problems or to answer various circumstances on how you would calm down. And some of the activities are the relaxation tips themselves. Nadine Brigg, Carrie Dunn-Baron is an autism research specialist, and she developed the 5-point scale, which I'll show you in a minute. And her forte is writing self-help books for kids, as well as publishing articles for professionals and teachers and parents on children with disabilities, such as autism. Like this book, Learners on the Autism Spectrum. Adeline's Claire is for children, and this is that 5-point scale I talked about, or I mentioned. It starts at 1 as a happy face, green, calm, happy. 5 is clearly not happy. It's aggravated, mad, completely disoriented, and it's in red. This is What to Do When You Worry Too Much by Dawn Hubner, and it's a kid's guide to overcoming anxiety. So I might use this within the series. She writes What to Do books. She's a clinical psychologist, but she specializes in training anxious children. And so with the What to Do guides, I might have a few different groups of children, and I might group them by, struggles that they have without them realizing it. And I might have them read these various What to Do books and have supplementing activities that go with it. So it's almost like a book club type situation. And she's a parent coach and motivational speaker. So like I said, she writes various What to Do books. This one's When You Dread Your Bed, What to Do When Your Brain Gets Stuck, so overcoming OCD, and What to Do When Your Temper Flares, so problems with anger. So this is Cornelia Spellman. She writes When I Feel Worried, which is part of the Way I Feel books, which uses animals such as hamsters and bunnies to, again, discuss feelings and thoughts and emotions that go with with children, and putting their feelings into words. And then she gives strategies, and you can see these animals overcoming, or not necessarily overcoming, but dealing with and living with these struggles. She's a writer, artist, and clinical social worker, and she writes about the value of taking care of emotions and relationships because she witnessed in her work that students really struggled with how to deal with emotions such as grief or anger or anxiety, and parents didn't know how to help their children with that either. And it was just a bunch of, well, this is a thing and we don't know how to handle it. And so she really strived to close that gap. So this book I might use like I used the other one, since there's a series of different feelings, and I might make book clubs and then rotate the books, because I think to some degree all children feel these. And I might start off with children who I notice have anxiety. I might give them this book first. She also writes When I Miss You, When I Feel Angry, and When I Feel Jealous. So now that I've talked about the books a little bit and what they're about and the general storyline and teaching points I would give and how I would teach it, I'm going to talk about connecting threads. So like I said, a lot of these authors have worked in psychology or social work, so they're not just children's writers and illustrators. They have been in this field specializing in either anxiety or some other mental health or social emotional area, which is helpful for when they're writing books that target these. This particular series of books is all about anxiety in children and worrying, and they all give strategies, or they show a character. They either straight up give a tip, or they show a character using various strategies or tips, or some older characters giving them strategies and tips. And they're all what I would categorize as self-help books. So I want to give a few resources before ending this. These two websites are good for families. This one's more geared towards parents, and this one is more geared towards children. This I Bet I Won't Fret workbook is a workbook for kids with generalized anxiety. So it's just general anxiety disorder, not a particular one. It's a workbook, so it gives situations and problems for children to work through. It's not just reading. And then this Helping Your Anxious Child is a great step-by-step guide for parents who really don't know where to start with their anxious child and ways they can support them at home and in other settings. And then this website at the bottom that you'll see in a moment gives a bunch of other websites where I got these two from. And they give websites that are more focused on specific general anxiety disorders, not just general, which I kind of focused on in this presentation. And they also give books that focus on nighttime anxiety or post-traumatic stress, etc. as well. So thank you for watching.